You might not realize this, but in wild boar control, the greatest danger doesn't lie in the moment the system is triggered. It lies in what comes after. Invisible traces don't vanish right away. Scent, sound, disturbed behavior patterns. To the rest of the herd, those traces are information. They're clues to answer one question only. Is this place still safe? If handled carelessly, a single intervention point can quietly turn into a familiar checkpoint, one the herd remembers and returns to, raising the risk instead of reducing it. That's why the true goal of the entire system isn't how many animals are caught, but whether the behavioral loop of the herd is fully broken. At the forest edge, the smart enclosure records the first response. A few individuals are held back, while the rest of the herd stays at a distance, watching, not fully retreating. That tells us one thing clearly. This area hasn't been erased from their movement map yet. Instead of waiting longer to draw more in, the control team moves early. The first captured animals are transported out immediately, preventing the site from turning into a confirmation point for the herd behind. Once the vehicle leaves, the forest edge settles back into normal. No signals remain. Nothing left to assess. No reason for the herd to return. In the buffer zone, the system never fully activates. The boars approach, leave traces, then pull away. In many cases, this would be labeled a failed operation. But this time, the response is different. The area isn't left overnight. Biological traces are removed. The space is reset to what we call an information empty zone. At the same time, the transport route from the forest edge is quietly adjusted to pass through this area without leaving new signals behind. When the herd comes back to check, they find nothing familiar, no confirmation. The buffer zone loses its role entirely. It's no longer a link in the herd's movement chain. Near residential areas, the large enclosure system is fully deployed. This is the most sensitive zone, where every action must put community safety first. The rules here are strict. No prolonged handling on site, no gathering points, no curiosity, no uncontrolled contact. The goal isn't just to resolve the immediate situation, but to make sure this place never becomes an attraction point again. In a short time, a high-risk zone is converted back into a safe space for local residents. All captured individuals are transported to the designated handling locations according to regulations. This ensures they don't return to their old territory, don't create location memory for other herds, and don't introduce secondary risks to nearby communities. Throughout the process, transport isn't just a technical step. It's the final lock that seals the entire control system. Once movement is cut off, the chain of risk ends right there. A trap can control individuals, but only proper handling and correct direction can maintain long-term stability. In wild boar management, success isn't measured by how many are caught, but by whether dangerous behavior is prevented from happening again. When the herd signal chain is broken, the risk chain to crops and communities is broken with it. Quietly, responsibly, without extremes. And the greatest success of all? When the community no longer has to think about wild boars at all. Follow us and continue the journey with us. Dramatic, real, and rooted in the mission of protecting our homeland from wild boar threats.
Ease on back. Oh, it's getting started up now. Getting started up now.
I pretty much built. But actually it's the same rope that I have, it's just new. Yep. Come on, Spot. Yep.
Easy, sister. Easy. Yep. I just way I'll bring my mind. Come on now. Let's go, girl. Come on. Yep. There we go, Tom. There we go, Tom. There we go, Tom. There we go, Tom. Yep. Little one down again. Come on. Talk about it. I'll let go again.
In many rural areas, wild hogs didn't start out as a major problem. At first, they were just a minor nuisance. But over time, their numbers exploded, and so did the damage. Fields torn up, crops destroyed, ecosystems thrown off balance, and real safety risks for people. In the United States, feral swine have now been documented in at least 35 states, with agricultural damage and control costs estimated in the billions of dollars every year. So, the question is no longer whether we should control wild hogs. The real question is how to do it effectively and responsibly. Wild hogs are highly social animals. They move in groups, learn fast, and become extremely cautious after bad experiences. When you remove hogs one by one, the rest of the sounder quickly wise up, making future control exponentially harder. That behavior forces managers to shift their thinking. Control the whole group, not individual animals. Pig brig is a trap system designed around how wild hogs actually behave, feeding together as a group, lowering their guard once they feel comfortable. Instead of triggering too early, the system allows the sounder to enter and exit naturally, managers to observe and estimate group size, and activation only when the entire group is inside. This approach prevents the single biggest cause of failure in hog control, leaving survivors behind. The most important rule in wild hog control is this: don't turn it into a chase. Once you spook the group and send them scattering, you might catch a few, but you lose the chance to solve the problem for good. When hogs believe everything is normal, that's when you can close the door on the entire sounder. Clean, safe, and effective. Trapping with pig brig doesn't start with rushing in. It starts with observation and patience. Managers first identify high-traffic areas, places where tracks, routing, and signs show consistent group movement and feeding behavior. The modular net system is then set up with enough space for hogs to feel comfortable entering, without feeling cornered or threatened. Early on, the priority is conditioning and monitoring, allowing hogs to move in and out freely. Only after the group size and movement rhythm are clearly understood does the team choose the right moment to contain the entire sounder in a single activation. This reflects a core principle of wildlife management. Success doesn't come from speed, it comes from precision and timing. The use of monitoring equipment reduces the risk of non-target captures, prevents premature activation, and, most importantly, increases safety for the people doing the work. For many US communities, this is critical. Wild hog control must comply with local regulations, prioritize safety, and minimize unnecessary conflict.
little guys.
Effective hog control rarely comes from one person working alone. The biggest differences usually come down to three things. Coordinated timing. If each landowner acts independently, hogs simply shift from one property to another. Accurate information sharing. Tracks, time windows, travel routes. The clearer the picture, the stronger the plan. Targeting the whole sounder. Piecemeal removal only makes hogs smarter and damage lasts longer. You don't beat wild hogs with luck. You beat them with a plan.
Mercy.
The wild hog crisis shows one hard truth. Big threats often start quietly. Only when people take the time to observe, understand natural behavior, and act with strategy does real, long-term control become possible. Pig brig isn't just a trap, it's an approach. Understand the sounder, be patient, move at the right rhythm. Close it out in one clean moment to reduce long-term damage. When communities work together and do it right, crops are protected, safety improves, and balance can be restored. And sometimes, the way we set a trap reflects the way we choose to protect the future. Note: this video focuses on management and safety perspectives. All methods must comply with local regulations and should be carried out by experienced individuals.
I didn't even film them for that either. That's a
Wild hogs rarely show up by accident. They operate within established home ranges and travel routes, patterns that shift with the seasons or the level of disturbance. Once a sounder starts returning to an area, damage can escalate fast, sometimes overnight. And by the time it becomes obvious, controlling the situation is already far more difficult. That's why, instead of reacting after the damage is done, many communities choose a different approach: early, proactive control, guiding, containing, and stopping the problem before it spirals out of control. Reading signs isn't about chasing or confronting hogs. It's about understanding when and where intervention makes sense. Once a sounder develops a routine in a specific area, any poorly planned action can push them into unpredictable movement patterns, making control even harder. The goal is not pressure, but clarity. The real challenge isn't whether to build a trap, it's where to place it and how to approach it. Wild hogs don't move in straight lines. They avoid routes that feel too exposed or easily disturbed. A trap set just a few yards off, approached from the wrong direction, or based on an incomplete understanding of the sounder's habits, can render the entire effort ineffective. In those cases, hogs don't need to confront the trap at all. They simply adjust their behavior and slip right past the control zone. Across much of the eastern United States, terrain is diverse and unforgiving. Low-lying areas with soft soil shift constantly with moisture. Slopes and uneven ground can cause structures to move or settle over time. With traditional corral traps, unstable ground can lead to misaligned gates or reduced effectiveness after only a short period. More advanced systems, on the other hand, can be limited by camera angles, blind spots, or signal transmission issues. Not every spot that looks convenient is actually suitable. Eliminating locations that lack stability or safety is a necessary step, one that prevents bigger problems down the line. A trap only works when it blends into the environment, when hogs don't sense that something is out of place. If the design or placement feels unnatural, they'll pick up on it fast and reroute after the first encounter. That's why traps must be set along established travel paths and feeding areas, including secondary routes most people overlook. Speed isn't the priority. Reducing red flags is. Unfamiliar scents, human tracks, unnecessary disturbance. Once the trap is set, the best move is often to stay away. When the area settles back into normal, hogs return with less suspicion, and that's when control efforts have the highest chance of success. In areas close to homes and farmland, traditional corral traps remain effective due to hands-on control and the ability to respond quickly if something unexpected happens. This approach allows flexibility while maintaining safety for people and nearby property. In more remote areas, where nighttime access carries higher risk, smart corral traps show clear advantages. Remote monitoring and activation allow operators to wait until the entire sounder is inside, reducing the chance of leaving survivors that become trap-shy later on. Neither approach is about confrontation. Both are about behavioral control and reducing conflict through deliberate, calculated action. What these efforts show is that protecting crops isn't just about tools. It's about how well people understand and adapt to the land they live on. When deployed correctly, corral trap systems, especially those with remote monitoring, can significantly reduce conflict and protect harvests more effectively when matched to the right conditions. Note: all trapping and handling of feral hogs must comply with local regulations and guidance from relevant authorities. In upcoming episodes, we'll take a deeper look at how smart corral traps perform in real-world scenarios, how hog sounders respond, and why this technology is gradually changing the way entire communities protect their crops. For decades, wild boar have quietly expanded across the United States. From dense forests and southern swamps to fast-growing suburban neighborhoods, they are no longer just a rural problem. Today, wild boar represent a nationwide challenge: ecological, economic, and public safety all at once. We are facing a clear choice: manage wild boar populations responsibly or allow them to grow beyond control. Wild boar in the US are not native animals. They descend from domestic pigs released into the wild and European wild boar imported for hunting. Over generations, they adapted, reproduced rapidly, and became a highly intelligent and difficult to control invasive species. A single sow can produce 2 litters per year, with 6 to 12 piglets each time. A small group can turn into a sounder of dozens within just a few years. The consequences are severe: destroyed crops, soil erosion, disrupted native ecosystems, and most dangerously, direct threats to human safety when boar enter residential areas. Across the US, many communities and land management groups have shifted toward boar blanket systems, a modern sounder trapping solution, instead of targeting individual animals. Boar blanket traps are designed to capture entire sounders at once, including breeding animals. This approach allows for more effective and long-term population control. Some versions can be remotely triggered, reducing risk to operators and ensuring the whole group is contained at once, preventing trap avoidance that often happens when only a few animals are caught. As a result, boar management becomes not only faster, but more humane, minimizing animal suffering and reducing environmental damage. Before installing a boar blanket system, proper preparation is essential. This includes heavy-duty netting or tarp material, sturdy support frames or poles, trigger lines, and bait that effectively attracts wild boar. Thorough preparation ensures the setup process is faster and safer. Next, selecting the right location is critical. Ideal sites are areas the boar regularly travel, near feeding zones or established trails, while avoiding uneven or slippery terrain that could interfere with trap performance or cause damage. Once the site is chosen, the net is suspended on the frame or supports at a height sufficient to fully cover the area when dropped. During this step, careful inspection of ropes, hooks, and spring mechanisms is essential to ensure a smooth, even drop and prevent mechanical failure. The trigger line is then connected to the bait system so that when the boar engage, the mechanism releases and the net falls, safely containing the animals beneath it. Finally, the system should be tested multiple times to confirm reliable operation, while always maintaining a safe distance and performing regular checks to prevent accidents for both people and animals. At first, the sounder approaches the trap cautiously. Lead animals move slowly, constantly scent checking and scanning the surroundings before guiding the group forward. Once they sense safety, individual boar begin stepping into the center where the bait is placed. Only when the entire sounder is inside does the operator trigger the system. In an instant, the net drops from above, covering the entire area below. There's no violent impact, just a clean, decisive movement. The sounder is suddenly enclosed. Panic flares for a few seconds, then fades as escape proves impossible. Sows instinctively shield their piglets, while adult boar push against the net, testing for exits. The fully enclosed design prevents escape and avoids partial captures, reducing future trap avoidance. Once stabilized, the animals are safely contained while response teams move in to handle the situation according to established protocols. The entire process is fast, controlled, and minimizes injury and unnecessary stress, aligned with the goal of responsible population management. boar blanket is not a tool for eradication. It is a way for humans to regain control responsibly. When action is taken early and guided by understanding, communities don't have to fight nature. They learn how to live safely alongside it.